Gosh. Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your main man, aka Crazy Crockett, aka Andre's podcast. Folks, it is a nice afternoon. It's kind of cool. It's kind of refreshing. I am doing my podcast about the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. And let's start with that, and I'll make it to other sports. I'm planning on this to be about 25 minutes long so that I can eat my meal. But I wanted to talk about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. Now, the greatest disappointment in any fight is that you see one fighter not trying his best and ability to knock someone out, and then you have the other fighter who's being protected by the Boxing Association of Texas, so that these two fighters can make $60 million within both of them. My understanding is that Mike Tyson made $20 million and Jake Paul made $40 million. And I think we should figure this out, and I don't know why we all watched it, but we should all figure it out that Mike Tyson was way too old and out of shape, or maybe we should say that Mike Tyson was held back to do what he does best, and that's basically knock someone out. And as most of us know, that Mike Tyson is usually the most ruthless man in the world within the first 3 rounds of the fight. And within the first 3 rounds of the fight, or at least the first round of the fight, I should say the first round of the fight, he can knock someone out cold-heartedly, very quick, very mathematically sound, I guess you could call that, about ducking and dipping and figuring out his opponent's distance and the way that he fights. In this fight, it showed a more reserved, more laid back fight. I think a lot of people, I don't know why I thought that Mike Tyson was going to knock out Jake Paul. And it's not to say that Mike Tyson was going to knock Jake Paul if he had the opportunity, but the fact that you have to remind ourselves that he's 58 years old. So even if he could knock Jake Paul out, Jake Paul would have to be incredibly slower to not get touched by Mike Tyson. And clearly when you have someone who's 25 years old and someone who's 58 years old, you can move a lot faster than the 58-year-old man. And regardless of how much muscle mass that Mike Tyson may have had or how strong that he could still be, if you don't have the quickness to hit your opponent, you're not going to connect those punches. But saying that, it was pretty obvious within the first round that it was not a fair fight. And to us, the fans and audience, we should have never paid attention to this fight. We should have just ignored it. We should have just watched something else. We should have been at the movies. We should have been watching other sports. And instead, we watched 8 rounds of an old person trying to fight a younger guy. And it was almost as weird as saying that when you see a bunch of teenagers pick a fight with a homeless man and put it on YouTube or Vines. Back in the day, it was Vines. I don't know if people remember that platform, a video platform, but that's where some of that was downloaded, is that homeless veterans would be in fighting with teenagers or homeless people would be fighting against each other to grab $20 or $10 per fight. Basically, it was a cockfight. And basically, that's what we watch. We kind of watch a cockfight where you got a younger guy, the younger rooster, fighting the old rooster. You put your money down on who you thought was going to win the fight, and then everyone lost and everyone won the fight. So even if you were doing FanDuel or DraftKings or MGM Casino, even if you picked Jake Paul to win, you would have had to put down $100 to win maybe $300. I don't know the math or anything like that, but it didn't make sense. There was not enough money to put into it so that you would win an amount of money. Even the people, if you put money down on which round Mike Tyson was going to knock out Jake Paul, you would have lost. Even if it's not the first round or the 8th round, even if you picked Jake Paul to knock out Mike Tyson, you also lost. I think that was easy pickings for these casino websites, apps to make money off dumb people. I stayed away from this the money value of this fight, just because it wasn't even worth it. But going on to the fight before Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, we had 2 women fight, and that was a lot better fight. And I really wonder. To me, I still wonder why men like to watch women fight. I just don't understand the whole turn-on thing about watching 2 women. One of them is very attractive usually, and the other one's not attractive at all. And then you get to watch this stuff, and then I just don't get the whole arousal thing behind it. I know that when I hung out with a bunch of guys playing poker about 10 years ago, when UFC was probably on top of its game, there were always more future fighters of women fighting. A little bit before Ronda Rousey took the platform, but I remember watching these guys, and they say, "Oh, she's super attractive. She's super hot. Oh, I would love to have sex with her." Well, the other word I would say, they really want to effort. So I can't really say it. I want this to be on YouTube. I want this thing to be on TikTok someday. But they want to have sex with her. And I had to kind of even tell them, like, do you understand that most of those women are probably not heterosexuals? And they have an extra edge, testosterone level to them. And they would basically destroy you as a person, emotionally and physically. And I don't understand that. And I feel, in my point of view, men that like watching women fight have it under fascination of wanting to hurt women physically or emotionally. I feel that men that enjoy women fighting, they have this really sick thing in their head that if I could beat her up, she would have to be submissive to me sexually. And I think in some ways that the UFC or the MMA or whatever it's on the platform, when they promote women fighting with each other, they're also promoting teenage girls to fight each other instead of talking things out. And I really think that women really weren't supposed to fight. Yes, I get it. There were some lady warriors back in the day, over 1,000 years ago, Joan of Arc, and maybe Amazon women somewhere in the Amazon world or whatever. And some people would consider Wonder Woman as a philosophical, methodical species of women warriors somewhere in Greece, in a part of the small island of Lesbos. And Lesbos is where the ancestry of, let's say, where the Wonder Woman superhero came from. And I think a lot of guys, or a lot of people, think that was a very true story. They actually think that Wonder Woman was real, and Wonder Woman and the mom and all these women would fight men off, and they would procreate with men, and then get rid of the men because men were bad species in their environment. And I think when people actually believe that story, it just makes it difficult for them to. It just makes it difficult for me to understand that that's not real. And I don't understand, if I understand that Wonder Woman and the Greek mythology, gosh, I can't pronounce words. Greek mythology isn't real. Zeus was not real. Hades was not real. It's an old storyline of what Greeks would consider a spiritual or religious belief. Even Socrates thought that Greek mythology was baloney. And going back to the UFC with women fighting, I mean, it just isn't real. I just don't know why you would want women fighting. And if you hear a lot of men say that they don't want women fighting in wars, then I don't know why you want to watch women fight in a octagon in their shorts and slapping each other or punching each other in the face. It doesn't add up to me. It will never add up to me. I just think it's dumb. I think it's not good. It's just, and I'm pretty sure like people like Joe Rogan and other UFC fighters and all the women who are fighters in the South would tell me that I'm insecure with my masculinity, or I'm insecure with my own presence as a human being. But maybe I'm right. Maybe I am right about the fact that I just don't approve of women fighting. Just don't think that's very consciously responsible at any level. Then people would ask me, well, then why do you approve of male fighting or men fighting? And I'll tell you this, I think men should fight when it becomes about protecting themselves and protecting their land and protecting their rights. And if that means protecting their rights from other countries invading their country, or if the government is illegally invading your space, forcing you to do something that you don't want to do. And I'm not saying like taxes or any like taxes of the city, the county that you live in, but let's say they're kidnapping your kids and making your kids into soldiers, or kidnapping your wife, or taking your land illegally. I think that in itself is self-defense against the government. But in America, we have a constitution. We have all these laws that protects each individual man and woman. And that's how I feel about what men need to be able to protect themselves. And that's, to me, that's totally legal. And I think it's totally fair. And I think that when you see in today's society, America, we're not in a war with China. We're not in a war with Ukraine or Russia. We're not in a war in the Middle East. Yes, we are financially involved in those countries, but we're not sending physical soldiers in those areas of the world. We're not dying over Israel's right to have its own land, or Russia and Ukraine fighting for their own independence from each other. And that, to me, is different. And I guess that's what makes me old-fashioned. That I can calculate what is right and what is wrong. It'd be difficult for me if a girl tried to punch me in the face, and let's say she had no right to do so. I have the right to protect myself, but I don't even think I could punch her back. I would push her out of the way. I would walk away from her. I would completely get away from her space. And if she kept coming into my space, I would continually leave that space. And I would ask for assistance from people around me and say, hey, this lady is trying to touch me. She's trying to hit me. She's trying to physically abuse me. Please call the authorities. And that's the way I would do that's how I would defend myself against women coming at me. You know, and some guys will say, well, I would punch that bitch. I would punch her. If she came at me, I would punch her. And I'm like, well, I mean, that's not really good. That doesn't really say much about your controlling your anger or your mental state of mind. But it's your will. It's what you do. It's what you're gonna do. To me, I just wouldn't do that. But moving on, Jake Paul is now challenging Conor McGregor, an MMA fighter, UFC bout champion, a man that's been retired for about 5 to 6 years. Clearly, when he finally lost his couple bouts, he's never been the same. And I find it interesting that Jake Paul keeps asking old fighters to come out of retirement and fight and fight him. I think the best way to stop Jake Paul is completely ignore him. And it's funny that I'm saying that because I'm doing a podcast about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. But I think this might be the last time I'll talk about Jake Paul. And I really think that everyone should really stop paying attention to Jake Paul. I think that's the only way, that's the only answer that we have to this obnoxiousness of a guy that is giving off a very Hulk Hogan feel to it. He's got blonde hair. He's about 6'3". He's pretty big. He's probably on steroids or some PED or sports enhancement stuff. I could see when he's like 35 years old, he goes into the WWE. He puts in his yellow trunks. He has a yellow headbandana. He'll start talking to the kids about eating the vitamins and going to school and not doing drugs, and he'll do exactly what Hulk Hogan did in the 80s. And I feel like this is what's going to happen with Jake Paul. He'll get to be like 35 years old, and he'll need a new set of rules, a new career, and go and make more money off fake sports. And let's be real, that Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight was not even a real boxing fight. It was fake, totally fake. I wouldn't even count it as a fight. I think there should be a hashtag or an asteroid comma or whatever, saying that this was a setup, it wasn't real. If Mike Tyson was not allowed to do his signature 1-2 punch upper hook into the guy's jaw, then it's not a fight. Moving on from that, folks, we're going to talk about MLB, baseball. We got to talk about the newest or some of the old Hall of Fame nominees for 2025. Here's a surprise for you folks. Joe Maur, first baseman for Minnesota Twins, in the late 90s, mid 90s, career average of batting average of 306, 143 home runs, 923 RBIs, and on base percentage .827, or a plus base percentage. He's played over 1,858 games. He has over 6,930 at bats. He's got over 1,000 runs, 2,000 hits. He's got 428 doubles. He's got 30 triples. He has a pretty phenomenal career, and I kind of consider him like the Lou Whitaker of Detroit Tigers. Detroit Tigers, Lou Whitaker had the same type of average, more or less like 283. Probably not as many hits as Joe Maur. Lou Whitaker. Let me check this out. Oops. Oh. Detroit Tigers. Here we go. So Lou Whitaker had a 276 average, 244 home runs, over 1,000 RBIs, and on plus base percentage .728. Lou Whitaker played over 2,390 games. He has got 8,570 at bats. He's got 1,386 runs, 2,369 hits, 420 doubles, 65 triples. So Lou Whitaker should have been in the Hall of Fame, and I feel like if Joe Maur becomes another, he's got his last time a chance to get himself into the Hall of Fame, unless the players voted him in there. But I think that Lou Whitaker and Joe Maur should both be in the Hall of Fame. They both deserve it. I know Joe Maur was one of the most basic but very reliable, good hitter. Some power. He could probably hit a couple more home runs if he wanted to. You can't say much more about Joe Maur. So I hope that Joe Maur will make it into the Hall of Fame. As most of you guys know, that Ichiro Suzuki will be probably nominated in the Hall of Fame himself. He has got a 311 average, 117 home runs, 780 RBIs, plus percentage, .757. He's got over 2,653 games played, over 9,934 at bats, 1,420 runs, 3,089 hits, 362 doubles, and 96 triples. He's got 117 home runs, like I said. I think he's going to get it no matter what. So, Sabathia is also nominated. CC was more, I feel like CC was more effective during his Cleveland Indians days. Now the Guardians. He was a New York Yankee, won a couple of World Series with the Yankees with Derek Jeter. I think he'll get in quite easily himself. But congratulations to Ichiro and CC. I hope Joe Maur gets it. I think that Lou Whitaker should also get it. Lou Whitaker has one more thing about Lou Whitaker. Lou Whitaker and Ryan Sandberg have very similar percentages in kind of the same type of stats. That's what I'm trying to say. Lou Whitaker and Ryan Sandberg both have the same stats. So if Ryan Sandberg is in, I don't know why Lou Whitaker isn't. I know I'm talking about the Tigers. And but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for listening to my podcast. A little shorter than usual, but I think this is going to be easier for people. If I keep it short in 30 minutes instead of 45 minutes, it'd be more manageable for people to listen to it on the way to work, on the way back. Thank you, rss.com. You can find me on any platform that you can download it on. The more popular ones are Apple and Spotify. You can also watch me on YouTube. I'm also on there. Peace, love, and good night.